Hey everybody, Jem Schofield here with the C47, and I'm in the secret lab of Westcott, and we are now going to talk about one of my favorite things, the Book Light Kit. I am in the secret Westcott lab, and I have been spending the last few days, this is one of many trips here for me, actually looking at one of the near final prototypes of one of my favorite kits to come out of this new system that I'm designing, and this is called the Book Light Kit. And I have been using something in this form or another for almost a year now based on the original Scrim Jim system. And I started a dialogue with Westcott, and it really all started with the Book Light and wanting to create something that was lightweight, was modular, that I could basically take anywhere, other DPs could take anywhere, and control a tremendous amount of light, or just a little bit of light depending on the circumstances, and shape it the way they want. So what exactly is a book light if you're not familiar with it? And it's also sometimes called a 7-minute drill because on a film set it takes a crew about 7 minutes to build one, generally in much larger sizes than the one we have here. But I will talk to you guys about that a little bit. So the basic concept here is a book light is a system whereby you bounce light off of one thing and then you diffuse it, and then that side becomes your key source or your fill, or however you're going to use the light. And what you bounce it off of and what you bounce it through is obviously going to change the quality of the light that you're getting from your book light. So traditionally, people might build a big frame and they could bounce it off of some sort of silk, and then they could push it through some sort of diffusion. You can take a large piece of foam core, and then you could take a C-stand with a 40-inch arm, and you could put a roll of something like soft frost or opal or 216, and then push your light through there. So there's a number of different ways that you can do it, but what I wanted to design was something that everybody could use on a regular basis without having to go and source all of those things all of the time. So this is a freestanding system that you can build, and it's a lot more modular than we're looking at here. This is just the base book light configuration. The kit itself can do a lot of other things, and we'll take a look at some of those in this video. But what I want to do is kind of take you through some of the components of this. And of course, this is built on the new system. And so what you can see here is that we have these frame parts. And again, this is a prototype, so there's still some things to refine. But we've got the double Velcroed frame here. And then you can see that what I've done just for now is I basically skinned this side with one of the fabric combinations that we have, which is black. It's a duvetine fabric. And then in the other side, one of my favorites, unbleached muslin. I love to bounce light off of unbleached muslin. It creates a really, really nice, soft, warm light, which we then push through some sort of diffusion and then get even softer light. And then on the other side, I have it skinned with the silver white. So you've got this really, really bright silver that you can use. This is especially great for outdoors to get light into other places. And then we've got this really nice pure white here, which we can bounce off of, and that's really fantastic. Now on this side, I have the two diffusion fabrics which come with the Book Light Kit, and you'll be able to get other fabrics for this system. But the other thing to mention here, which is really exciting to me, is that it is 48 inches or 4 feet wide. So if you want to go and buy a roll of your favorite type of diffusion, you can actually go ahead and just skin this with that. So if you wanted to put soft frost on one side, you could. What I have here is I have half grid cloth, which I love, and then we also have a 3/4 stop diffusion panel. This is actually what I like to use with the unbleached muslin. So it's really, really nice because muslin is going to absorb some of the light as well as bounce it. So you don't want to push it through something that's too heavy unless you have very, very powerful light sources. And we're trying to get away from that right now with a lot of these newer camera systems that we can shoot with high ISOs. We still need to light, we still need to place our light, but we don't necessarily have to use lights that are as powerful. But we still have to think about how light reacts to things, or when light hits something, what happens. So that's why I like to use lighter diffusion sometimes when I'm bouncing off of certain materials. So that's the basic concept here. What we have is we have this 48 by 72 or 4 foot by 6 foot book light. And we have all of these different fabrics here, but then you have the flexibility to put your own things on it. And I just wanted to pick fabrics that I thought would be incredibly versatile. The combination of having this black here and then the muslin, so you've got some sort of negative fill. You also have a really nice bounce source. The white obviously for bounce, the silver for bounce, and then you have these two diffusion fabrics, gives you a lot of versatility. So one of the other things I want to show you guys, which is again one of my favorite things about the Book Light Kit, is the hinge system. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk this frame. Don't get too excited. Pretty cool, huh? So the flexibility of that, and I'm calling that a swing hinge. I don't know what it's going to be officially called because, again, we're just finishing all of this, is the fact that you can just go ahead and very, very quickly flip this. And when you are keying from one side of the room or the other and you're trying things, it just gives you that flexibility. Which is really, really nice. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to go ahead and take off. Let me just go ahead and take off this silver white. And again, it's this whole Velcro system. So you can see there's our silver white. And I'm also going to take off. I'll take off the grid cloth. Okay. And so you can see here that I've got the black here and I've got the 3/4. Again, I can just walk this back. The double hinge. And now I've got my bounce and diffuse system. So now I can go ahead and take a light source, and I'm just going to turn this so you guys can see this a little bit better. And I just want to make sure, now that we kind of have it built sort of the way it would be, is the idea is that we're going to take a light and we're going to go ahead and push it into this side. That light's going to bounce off of this panel, and then it's going to come through here, and this is going to be our key source. What would we do if we wanted to key going in the other direction? Very simply, just take this, flip it over. Now we bounce our light into this side, and now our key light's coming out through there. So bounce and diffuse, and that's the idea. And you can see, again, this is a prototype, so some of the things are being finalized. This entire thing breaks down because it's all part of this system. As you can see, incredibly versatile in this configuration. The first thing I want to do in the next part of this video is show you guys how we're going to use the book light in this traditional way for kind of a mock interview setup. And then later on, start to break this thing apart and show you how modular the book light kit is in other configurations. Okay, cool. So now we are set up here with the book light and a couple of other things, and I have Jessica here. Hey, Jessica. Hi. And she's just sitting in for a couple of minutes. She's with Westcott and just playing as our model for now. And we've kind of got a little bit of a pseudo quick interview type setup going. And what I've done is I've set up the book light here with the silver on this side, which we're not going to use. We're using the white inside, and that's going to be for our bounce. And then I have the half-stop grid cloth here. So we've got that in the front. That's going to be our diffusion panel. And now we have also here our key, basically. And this is not really our key light because it's going to bounce and diffuse through the book light, which is going to become our key source. But we're using the 12 by 36 Flex, which is a prototype. And actually, I've built out with the new frame system a 12 by 36 frame that can basically just allow us to clamp stuff to this, and we can basically grip it to anything we want. So that's going to be our main source. This is a tungsten version of the light. We obviously could use daylight if needed, and it's going to give us a lot of light output, which is going to be perfect for us because, again, we are bouncing light and we're diffusing. So we're going to lose some light there, but we're also creating this really, really nice soft light source. All right, so basically what we're going to do now is we're going to kill these key lights that we're using for the instructional video, and we're going to go ahead and reposition this book light, the flex light, and everything else. So we're going to go ahead and shoot into the fill side, and that's what we would do almost all of the time, and that's going to give us some actual three-dimensionality, some definition to the shot. So let's go ahead and kill these lights, and then when we come back up, we'll have this thing set up, and then I'll talk to you guys about what we're doing exactly with the book light. All right, so now we are in our pseudo interview setup kind of situation here in the studio, and you can see the book light here over to my left. Jessica obviously is in the interviewee position where she's going to be looking camera right. And we have the half grid cloth over here, which is acting as our key source. The 12 by 36 is bouncing off of the white diffusion that's on the inside of the book light. So we've got this really beautiful wrap light. We've got this huge catch light in Jessica's eyes. And we've just done a couple of other simple things. We have an ice light 2 over here, which is just creating a little bit of a hair light, you know, a rim light, backlight, whatever you want to call it, for separation. And then I've taken this little fixture and just put one of those flavor of the month Edison old style bulbs just to create a little bit of visual interest here. But one of the things that a large light source is going to do like this is it's obviously going to create a lot of bounce light all over the space that you're in. Now, we could easily handle bounce on the ceiling if we wanted to. We can just go ahead and put a small piece of Duvetine over there and just cover it. But for me, the big problem is the spill on our background. And it's a little bit too light. So what I have actually already set here on standby is I have the 4x4 frame from the DP kit, and I have the floppy cutter on there, which we'll talk about in another video. And I'm just going to walk that in over here so that I can block a lot of light. Opened up, this is 48 by 96, so it becomes a big flag for us, a big light blocking piece of equipment. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to walk this in quickly. And you can immediately see the change on the background there. But there's so much light that's being created here by the book light. It's not a problem for our talent. And now I'm going to walk over here. Again, nice wrap light, no fill right now. But if I wanted to walk in, what I can do is just take a little fill. And if I want to, and I could set that on the stand, you can see I can just go ahead and fill in those shadows just a little bit. So Jessica's looking over here, and then we're going to go ahead and just fill in a little bit. Or if we wanted to, whether it was with something like the fast flags or with another floppy cutter closed up, or just walking in a little bit of black here, I can create a little bit of negative fill. And this is also important when you guys are shooting in spaces which is what we do all the time, where we're in small spaces with a lot of bright walls, then we're going to want to walk in some sort of negative fill on that other side because it's going to be bouncing all over the place. So to me, the huge advantage is that we have this huge wrapped light source, and it doesn't matter who sits down. You know, we're constantly adjusting lights when we're setting up frames and we're pushing light through because of where the shadows are falling on people's faces. And what I love about the book light is it really eliminates that problem. When you have it in the position you want, it doesn't matter if the person has dark skin, light skin, what their ethnic background is, their facial features. It's just this really beautiful, soft, wrapped light. I'm actually going to have Jessica, if it's okay, just have you talk a little bit to Brandon. I'm rolling camera anyway, just so that people can kind of see what it would look like in an interview setup. So as you can see here on our little tight shot here from the interview, Jessica's just talking, you know, and we've got that off-camera key, and you can see really how nice the light is. So I know you have to go, and I'm just going to continue to talk about the light, so go ahead, and thank you so much. So one of the things that I can say about this configuration, and I've been using prototypes of this particular thing in classes now for almost a year, is that it is incredibly versatile. And of course, right now we're just using our white and our grid cloth, but one of my favorite configurations is the muslin and actually bouncing off of that and then going through a 3/4 stop diffusion. And it just warms up the talent a little bit. It looks fantastic when you're using daylight as your source in terms of your lighting fixtures. It looks great when you're using tungsten as your source, and you just have to make sure you color balance your camera accordingly. Now, to be able to use it in combination with the DP kit, where I can now have this huge 48x96 flag, is fantastic. But what I want to talk to you guys next about is what happens when we take the book light and we start to break it apart. So we're no longer using that hinge and opening and closing it. We're breaking it apart into different frames, and I've got a couple of different setups to show you guys on that. So here we are, and this is Ashley. Hey, Ashley. And we are looking at a different setup now. So we had the one earlier with Jessica, which is sort of more typical interview style setup. And we're just in a small studio space, so we're just kind of showing you some options with different ways we can set up this book light kit. We've broken the book light kit up into two 4x6 panels, and we have replaced the swing hinge component with 4 corners. And so that's now creating these two 48x72 basically panels or frames. And on this side I have the white, which we're going to use as basically our key. And then we have hung the black here from the black muslin piece. And we're really just using this as a negative fill. So any kind of bounce that might be coming off of the space, we can make sure that we're creating a little bit more of a moody kind of scene, more along the lines of what we would have for something that was dramatic or a narrative. Hero camera over there, and that's basically just on Ashley on a slightly lower angle than normal, and of course we can take liberty with things like that when we're shooting narrative. If we were shooting an interview, we would never do that. And so what I want to do is basically kill these lights over here, and I'm going to strike the Skylux, which we're using here, bounced off of this, just sort of raking this whole panel. And we're also going to turn on another Skylux, and we have that gelled. And then we'll take a look at just a couple of options there. So I'm going to go ahead and strike that, and then Brandon is over there, and this is a dimmable light, and he's going to strike. Is that Skylux up already, Brandon? Do you know? It's on. That one's on. Okay, so that's already playing. We can barely see it because of the key. I'm going to actually step out of the frame and go over to our hero camera, and I'm just going to continue to talk about what we're doing here. And then Joe is going to basically strike the key lights right now, and I'm going to walk over and let's take a look at what we're looking at in the frame. So you can take a look at that, and there is Ashley, and we have our Skylux basically hitting a gray background. This is just a little tip for you guys. A lot of people struggle with putting color onto backgrounds. And what they try to do is they either try to blast a black background and they try to gel something, and that's basically a game over. Or they try to do things with a white background, which is completely reflective. The best thing you can do if you want to put color on a background is use a neutral gray color, because it's going to take color really, really well. And if you can get something that sort of sits in that 18% or middle gray range, then you're golden. You can gel your lights till the cows come home, and you're going to have lots and lots of different options. And in fact, right here you can see that in this we kind of get this very dramatic thing. And by the way, we've got a little bit of a kicker coming in from an Ice Light 2 also. That's coming from behind Ashley's right shoulder. And we are trying to create something that's a little bit moodier here. What I'm going to do is actually have Brandon go over. He's going to take the gels that we have here, and he's going to take them off, and he's going to replace them with doubled up blue. And we can just see, just by changing the color on the background, there's nothing. So that's just a Skylux with no diffusion or no gels in front of it. And now he's going to go ahead and clip that. And do me a favor, Brandon, can you double that up? Do you have another one? Just hold it in place. You don't even have to. And just make sure it's covering the whole light, because I see a little bit of bleed there. Perfect. So you can see there, just by taking that background color and changing it, we change that. If I then took my camera height and I actually changed that, then it would also communicate differently. And if we did eye level or from above, it would communicate a different thing. So as you can see there, and let's just go ahead and bring the key lights back up. All right, so there you go. Thank you, Ashley. That's awesome. So as you can see, we just break this thing apart, and we have these two panels. Really, really easy to do. We've added these two Skylux and the single Ice Light 2, and we can create pretty dramatic kind of narrative lighting. And I love this style here. And what's really nice about this too is that you can play with this. When you rake this light here, if this long panel is in the right place, you actually get a little bit of wrap that can sometimes go around depending on where you place it. And very, very cool stuff. I want to show you one more thing that we can do with the Book Light Kit in the next segment. So as you can see, the Book Light Kit is incredibly versatile, and in fact, we're not even looking at the Book Light Kit right now in anything that resembles its standard configuration. I wanted to show you one other thing. If we break this kit up with the pieces that are in the kit, we can also build a 6x6 frame and a 4x4 frame at the same time. So now you have a situation where you could go ahead and, if you owned the DP kit and all of the fabrics that come with that, you could actually take that and you could use these in combination with each other, and you could have a floppy cutter on one. You could go ahead and use it for a fill. You could go ahead and use this for your key source. There's just so many different ways that we can use this. I could use this to bounce off of in a corner with a large light source, and then I can go ahead and fill with one of the sides of this 4x4 frame that's been built from the Book Light Kit. And then, of course, again, if I have the DP kit as well, then Bob's your uncle. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So you add these two things together, the Book Light Kit and the DP kit, and the opportunities are pretty much endless in terms of lighting control. So there's your sneak peek at the Book Light Kit. Thanks for watching.